Okay, my name is Sean Mahoney, and my presentation is on managing image crises on social media, a guide to maintaining positive public relations after an image crisis occurs. So to start off, why does it matter? Social media has changed the way that organizations and consumers communicate. Over the last decade or so, there's been a shift towards a lot of emphasis being put on social media and the way that businesses present themselves in that sort of sphere of society. So many organizations have hired individuals or entire departments to maintain a positive public image on social media. The steps discussed in this presentation will allow organizations to standardize their business practice when attempting to minimize damage inflicted on their brand. So, like I said, the purpose of this report is to propose a cohesive method of addressing incidents of public image crisis. With appropriate response to criticism, the research that I found indicates that organizations and individuals can come out of a difficult situation with a better public image than they had prior to the incident. So the first mistake that many organizations make when faced with a crisis is to deny wrongdoing. Really, whether the company is responsible for the problem is not as important as whether the public thinks the company is responsible. Perception is everything, and it's very easy to ruin trust with your consumer base. And then just to discuss situational crisis communication theory, Coombs defined a crisis as a sudden and unexpected event that threatens to disrupt an organization's operations and poses both a financial and reputational threat. He formed a method for addressing public crises known as situational crisis communication theory. This theory provides an evidence-based framework for understanding how to maximize the reputational protection afforded by post-crisis communication. So there are a lot of studies on this topic, and they're kind of, when you boil them down, you get these rules that Freeberg summed up pretty nicely in her research. They are to communicate quickly, be credible, be accurate, be simple, be complete, communicate broadly. So, quick communication limits the amount of time that other sources can change the tone of the incident. Demonstrating credibility helps maintain trust. Accuracy reduces the chance that facts will be misconstrued. Simplicity keeps miscommunication to a minimum and lowers frustration. Being complete maximizes the value of each message or post. And then communicating broadly creates an open and public atmosphere. Once an apology has been made, it is important to focus on future relationships by rebuilding trust with consumers. Reparations in the form of discounts or vouchers are a common technique that can be used to help calm upset customers. The main takeaway from this is that you need to prioritize customer equity. So you are going to lose a lot of times a little bit of short-term profit, but that's in exchange for positive public image, which it maintains and builds your business in the long term. And so that is more important than short term. And a lot of times in customer service, people will get caught up with their personal pride, and that's not something that should be taken into consideration. You should just focus on whether or not you're building a long-term customer base. It's also important to acknowledge the situation and look at it from the customer's perspective. You need to, when you make an apology, it needs to feel real and genuine. A lot of times when companies apologize, it doesn't feel like it's coming from a person. And there is a good example of that. Jetstar, which is a low-budget airline out of New Zealand, had to cancel several flights over the holiday season. The company allowed upset customers to comment and tag them on social media without blocking or moderating the customers. And they responded to customers who had legitimate complaints using personal and specific language. And so this resulted in reduced attacks because it provided a personal face for the company, and people realized that they're dealing with other people rather than just sort of a cold business. So they were able to actually turn that crisis around, and it created sort of a positive image of the company because they treated people like people, which really is the main takeaway of this whole thing, is even though you're a business, you need to look at it as a relationship like any other relationship. So in conclusion, managing crisis is part of working in our current market. At some point, everybody is going to come across this. I came across social media controversy back when I was in high school. It affects everybody at some point. No one is going to go through life without having some kind of social media firestorm happen to them. If managed appropriately, crisis can be used to improve public image, which is really the best outcome from a bad situation. And if managed poorly, it can have lasting effects. There are times where, public image is permanently damaged as a result of poor management. And then it is important to focus on customer equity, which is more important than short-term profit or personal pride. Thank you for listening, and that is all we have. As always, here are the references in my paper, and if anybody has any interest in talking more about this, feel free to contact me.